I think that if you have chemistry with people, it becomes like muscle memory. You know what I mean? I no
Mm.
longer have to like be so buttoned up because I know Daniel's gonna hit his marks. It opens up situations where you can be like, hey, let's try this.
Jose Aguirre, welcome to the Unboxing Creators Podcast. How are you?
Mr. Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and I'm honored to be in your presence as always. For those who don't know, Jose is Senior Director of Content Creation at Mike Worldwide. He's a cinematographer, director of photography, editor, motion graphics artist, animator, father, and again, we'll get into that. Man of many talents. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the words. It's always great talking to you, whether we're in front of a camera or just talking camera. I love connecting with you, man.
Well, speaking of which, I knew I'd be coming on speaking to a director of photography, so I set up the DSLR, I set up the lighting, and hopefully I'm doing you proud with the video quality.
Mark, first of all, you're my idol, bro. If there's anybody I know personally, or just know for that matter, your lighting is always on point. And I try to copy what you do. So
I appreciate that. I'm gonna take the part where you said that I'm your idol and use that as ringtone every single time you call me
hey,
or text me.
hey, by all means.
Just speaking of cameras and you being a cinematographer and director of photography, I'd like to split up today's conversation into three lenses, so to speak. First is creativity and you as a professional, creativity and you in sports, and I'll get into that a little bit. You and I have talked about this before, and then creativity as it relates to parenthood. Let's start with what you do for a living lens first. Would you mind describing what you do for a living as if, say, I was like a 10-year-old?
I work for a company and I work with a team of artists. And in the world of social media, these clients can, or rather, people can see who these clients are, what cool stuff they do. And then, people share these images or these videos or whatever, and, get a conversation going. How it works is they'll ask us to create something for them. Sometimes there's like, somebody famous in there, and then we come up with ideas. Usually it's three ideas. One could be funny, one could be serious. It's just a whole bunch of different things. And then they pick one, and then we execute on that.
How big is the team usually on a video shoot when you're doing a video project?
And we do, multiple kinds of shoots. Sometimes they're like $1 million shoots. Sometimes they're pro bono. Sometimes, you know what I mean? So, but for the most part, I'd say about 80%, 70% of what I do is with a small skeleton crew. Camera A, camera B.
Mm.
Sometimes it's me operating two cameras, or it's two people on different cameras. There's your audio, there's your lighting, and there's your producer, and account people. So it's a really small footprint of a crew, and
Right?
sometimes those are actually more fun
Yeah.
and better because you're not kind of siloed. You know what I mean? Like everybody gets to work together. It's a more fun environment. You know what I mean?
Well, tell me more about the fun environment. Like, why would a fun environment, aside from the fact of being fun on a set, right? But like, what is its relation to engendering creativity on the set?
I love that. I love this question, dude, because I'm a firm believer of if you're not having fun doing what you're doing, it shows, especially in the work, right? I've been working with the same team for almost a decade, 8 years, right? Um, I have the same, I love my producer, Daniel. He's one of the smartest people, the most buttoned up people, and he has a sense of humor like me. You know what I mean? If you stand us next to each other, it's like, night and day.
Right.
But we just clicked right from the start. And we have a goal plan. I worked with Ryan Law. He's a fantastic animator and a really good camera guy. Knows his technical background. If you ask him to build a rocket ship, he'll be able to build it. Anyway, there's that guy. And other people like our audio guys and our lighting guys, Chris. These guys are fantastic. So to answer your question, I think that if you have chemistry with people, the work, it's almost like it becomes like muscle memory. You know what I mean? I no
Mm.
longer have to like be so buttoned up because I know Daniel's going to hit his marks. I know Ryan's going to get the shot. I know Chris is going to light this thing beautifully. It opens up situations where you can be like, hey, let's try this. You know what I mean? And I can trust that what we're saying to each other is a great idea.
In my head, as you're talking about that, I imagine you being you, which is this really funny, like easy to get along with human being, much less an amazing talent. How does that manifest itself when you're working with a talent for the first time? Because let me just run through some of your credits, right? Like you've worked with clients ranging from Johnson & Johnson to Panasonic to Tissot to Tyson Chicken and MetRx and ADP. Like literally, I can run the rest of this video based upon brands. But then also you've worked with a lot of big names. You know, in entertainment, you've worked with what's her name again? From The Office.
Oh, Mindy,
Yeah, you worked with Mindy Kaling. Athletes, dude. You've worked with a ton of professional athletes. Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. Justin Winslow, Joey Bosa. The list just goes on and on. Can you tell me what it's like to work with somebody in a video and perhaps they're not used to being in front of a camera, or maybe you want to get them in the mood to kind of give you the type of performance that you need. Tell me more about that.
you learn as you're going, right? Um, and it's I learned this from another creative director I used to work with years ago that you got to read the room. You know what I mean? You got to read what's going on. If the talent comes in and he's with his agents, and you can just tell, okay, it's serious time. Don't crack jokes or do anything stupid or whatever. I'm a jokester, you know that. I like to have fun. I feel like when that mood is set where you could still be a professional but get a couple chuckles here and there. It removes all the fog and clears up the air, and then everybody is comfortable. I'm talking about everybody from the team, from the guys behind the camera to the actual talent. You can see the little smile come up, and they start goofing around with you. Jose, chill, man. You know what I mean? Like just stuff like that. I'm a strong believer in that kind of atmosphere when you're in a shoot because again, it shows the in the end video or
Right,
even in photos, whatever it is you're doing, it shows when you can tell. You're a photographer, dude. You can tell when somebody is uncomfortable in
right.
front of the camera. You know
They're
what I mean? And you
stiff.
have to kind of
Yeah,
coax them. Sometimes when I'm behind the camera and it's an interview, and I can spot and I can tell that their shoulders are a little tight, or you could tell a little head nod behind the camera,
mm,
a little smile, a little
right,
gesture like, "Oh man, that was a great soundbite. That was a great clip. Let's mark it kind of lifts them up, and then okay, how about let's run it
right,
back. Now when you run it back, they're comfortable. It comes up even better.
right. It's almost like you're keying into one another's humanity.
Right.
You told me a story about one of the first times you were on set, and it was with Abby Wambach, the soccer
Oh,
player. Would you mind retelling that story and talking about how it helped contextualize for you, what it's like to be on set?
it was the scariest moment ever. Okay. I was given the opportunity. I was very green. Um, I was given the opportunity to go on this, humongous, you know, multiple location shoots for Panasonic. Abby was in the middle of it was a dolly shot, and
Wait,
Abby.
for the people who don't understand, describe what a dolly shot is.
So
Right.
she was running, and the camera on wheels is like going alongside her, and then she's kicking it, and then the camera pans to the goal where she's kicking this Panasonic product or kicking the ball into a tablet. So the logistics behind that is right. It's crazy. A lot of moving parts, and you gotta hit everything. And it was, I think, our third take, fourth take, or whatever. And right when she was about to do it, my phone rings, and it's the freaking the FaceTime ringer. Everybody knows that, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't even get to kick, and she was like, "Whose phone is that?" I was like, "Oh my god, I'm getting thrown off set. I'm getting launched out of set,
Right. End of your career.
right? Um, she comes over and I'm like, it's my niece. She's a huge fan. She looks at my phone and sees my niece, and my niece is like, whatever. She was like, all right, everybody, take five. She takes the phone and she sits down in her little, fold up chair and has a conversation with my niece, dude.
So great.
Now, meanwhile, I'm sweating pork and beans, bro. You know, right? And she comes back, she hands me my phone, and she goes, "When we're done, come see me. I'm going to give you this jersey.
Oh,
Give it to."
amazing.
Sometimes you'll see like an athlete or a celebrity or whatever, and you're like, "Oh man, they don't even want to look, oh, they're high and mighty, whatever." But some of these people, I can't speak for all of them, but some of them actually are real cool, you know, individuals.
Sometimes people think these folks are standoffish. I've also had the opportunity to work like Eli Manning and Mark Sanchez and those folks, and they're all very nice.
Right.
Um, what are some misconceptions that people have about what you do for a living?
Oh, the biggest one I think for me, is sometimes I'll post a picture of me working. I'm here, I'm there, whatever, and people will be like, "Oh man, you have such a cool job, this, that, and whatever," and everybody thinks it's fun. It is. It's fun and it's very cool. I love what I do, but it's also a job. It's work, and you're stressing throughout the day. You got to get
Right.
your setup right. You got to make sure you don't drop the ball. On because people think that you just go there and it's a vacation and you're hanging out.
Right.
It's not. It's a job.
Is there any exercises you do? Any tips or tricks to help you calm the nerves as a big moment approaches in production?
You know, we start shooting at 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever. Somewhere in between there, more so near the actual go time. I try to take 5 minutes, step outside, walk away from everything, and just relax myself. And no, it sounds corny, whatever, but I try to get into this
Not
space
corny
where
at all.
I get into this space where I'm like, okay, man, listen, you only have one shot to do this thing, right? Like for instance, when we were in Indianapolis with the Colts, with the NFL players, we had a 1 hour window, but we had to share that time with media. You know what I mean? And they literally go there, introduce, they run through their lines, and then they go. It's not like, cut, take two, none of that. You know what I mean? So that makes me nervous, but also like, all right, I want to take it on and get this, make sure I hit my mark and whatever. But yeah, I'll take like 5 minutes to myself, go outside, just breathe, calm myself, and run back my job, what I have to do,
Right.
exactly what shot am I doing. You know what I mean? And knock on wood, it's worked out.
I'd like to move to the second lens that we were talking about, and it's creativity through the lens of sports. I've heard you use a couple of phrases today. Don't drop the ball. Hey, when you run it back. Um, I don't know if a lot of people know this about you, but growing up, and you might still be a really good basketball player. I don't know. Do you still playing? You still shooting
Bro,
in
the knees aren't there anymore. Like I wish I'd run into a genie and I can have my 20-year-old knees back.
right?
But every now and again I'll hit a park, I'll shoot some hoops. I'm thinking about going back in there. In a 50-year-old league where we're all like
Yeah,
whatever. Like it's Wackets ball instead of it's
sure.
everybody's walking instead of running. Just to play, get some sweat going. But yeah,
Just one personal note. Shout out to your dad, Uncle
thank
Bob.
you.
When he was around, man, he was the heart and soul of those leagues that we played in.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
another conversation for another time, talking about our parents and what they were able to do for us so we could be successful here in the U.S. Right. Back to the basketball part, and you. There's this quote from a book called "How Basketball Can Save the World" by David Hollander, and he said of the inventor of basketball, Dr. James Naismith. He said Naismith created a game that replaced individual possession with interdependent cooperation. And I think of you not just on the basketball court, but also on the job, because on the basketball court you would usually run the point, so you'd be handling the ball, passing, shooting, but you were one of those guys because of that. you saw all angles of the play as it was developing, and you were able to know when and to whom you should pass to or even take the shot yourself. Very much like how I imagine you to handle yourself on the video set. Can you talk to me about how creativity on the court may mirror creativity on the video shoot?
When it comes to basketball and these shoots, I believe that, you know, it's chemistry. You gotta have chemistry. Like the more you play with somebody,
Mm,
you know that I know Mark is gonna be on that wing. Once I draw this defense in, I'm kicking it to Mark. He's hitting that three, right?
right. Every
The
time
same
I
thing
will.
goes for when you're on set. I know that Daniel, my producer, is gonna ask the right questions to make him say those things. So it's like that. It's like the trust, the chemistry, and just knowing that you don't got to worry about what this guy's going. Just like if you go to the park and you only have four guys that you played with all the time, and you need to
Right.
pick up one guy, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
you don't know what this guy does. Sometimes you don't want to pass him the ball. He might be a jock, or he might just not play defense.
Right.
And in the same token, you can also take that guy and joke with him and make him feel like he's part
Right.
of the team, and now you're building a chemistry with the new guy.
In both basketball and in business and video shoots, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Can you talk to me a little bit about taking the wins from the wins and the learnings from the losses? How do you carry those wins and losses through to the next project?
A good thing to do um, after every shoot is to have like a post mortem, right? And discuss exactly what you said. What worked, what didn't work, and it's usually the stuff that works is like a pat in the back and whatever, and it's like great job, whatever. The scary ones are the ones where it's like holy cow, you know, we
Right.
can't let that happen again.
Right.
All right. For instance, we're shooting. You press record and you're recording. But because of some, who knows, and I'm empathetic because I know how chaotic some of these sets can be. We'll get footage of somebody that double pressed the record button. So now
Oh
they're
man.
not recording what they're supposed to be, but
Right.
they're hitting record on the stuff where people are walking around on set, and the camera's moving here and there. And then you get that and you're like, oh my god, please, don't let that ever happen to me. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because it's bad.
Your son, I've seen his work ever since he was little, like doing amazing things, sketching the stuff in Photoshop that he did. I was like, oh my God, how do you figure this out? Right. And then my daughter, she's going to University of Georgia to be a designer. Yeah. I'm so super proud of her.
It's
But
awesome, man.
one of the things I want to confess to you, and I want to see if you have the same struggle, is I sometimes find myself wanting to say more in terms of responding to some of her creative pieces and realizing, hold on, you got to look at this as a parent. Don't try to art direct your kid. Or maybe there's times where like I ask, like, do you want me to answer you in terms of a parent or as a creative director of 3 decades? What do you do when you come across those situations? Do you feel the same kind of struggle with when you're working with your kids, especially with your son, on looking at their creative output or creative process?
I know exactly what you mean, sir. Just recently, my son had an animation assignment. He was to create a 60-second ad. I found myself shouldering him over the shoulder and being at first really, really critical, like as if I was doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then after a while, and through the help of my wife too, Kat, she's like, hey, don't make it like as if it's, something you do for your client, because the teacher's gonna know. Hold on, what is that? You know what I mean? But yes, I struggle with the same thing. And then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, you're being a little unfair to the guy,
Right.
if you're gonna do that. And instead of saying, hey, how about try this? It's encouragement. And then
Right.
believe it or not, the actual 60 came out fantastic because he did his own research. He looked up ads. He even used AI. I mean, I told him about the AI, I told him about Firefly and this and that. And he used these techniques and everything. And, I'll send it to you. But he took it was like a dark city scenario, and then he had some copy roll in, and then lightning hit, and then the
Nice.
can kind of drove itself into the asphalt. Explosion like this with the dirt coming up, and then another. He had like copy rolling in from behind and in front, so there's
Wow.
dimension,
Nice.
and some embers flying around, and
Sure.
it came out really, really good. And yeah, it kind of it's almost like wow, he actually did what I wish I would have done. The same thing goes for my daughter. She sees my cameras laying around. She's like, "Hey, Dad, what's that?
Yeah.
Can I take that to school?" I'm like, "No, but I'll go with
I
you."
love that she asked though. It's like
No, I bought her a
the
camera.
desire's there. Okay, 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 yeah, okay.
I bought a little cool pics thing, but yeah, the desire is there, and then sometimes we'll just drive. I forgot what it was, but we were driving around, and she took the camera and was just taking pictures of buildings and like
Nice.
street photography style stuff. I'm like, when did this happen? When did you gain interest in this?
So this has been a great conversation. I want to close with one more question. What do you wish your kids knew or understood better about what you do for a living?
It's not easy. So there's a job, and then there's a career, right? What you're doing now in college is you're setting yourself up for a career. I mean, it's the old saying of all of our parents. Oh, you guys had it easy. I mean, all of our parents said that.
Every
Oh,
single
back
one.
in the day, I used to put a truck on my back and whatever. No, they know the struggles that my parents had. Uh, bringing six of us up. I mean, I don't want to make this a Simon, but both my parents died,
Mm,
within years,
mm,
and we kind of had to learn to be adults really fast,
mm,
right? And I tell them, my son especially, I'm like, look, I don't mind if you play video games till 3 in the morning, whatever. But if you need to get up at 7 a.m. to go to class or do your work or this or that, just do it. All these lectures or all these little lessons that I teach you, it's not for me. It's for you guys. I gain nothing from it. Hard work pays off, and it's not easy. None of this stuff is given to you. You know what I mean? You got to earn it. If you're serious about this, you got to be serious about everything else. It's not just
mhm,
that one moment. It's
mhm.
all the moments leading up to that.
Jose, as usual, a spectacular time talking. Learned so much about your love as a professional, your love as an athlete and basketball player, and of course, the love of your children and being a creative director dad with them. I appreciate the time, and hopefully we get to chat again like this again soon.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, man. Like always.